can, and I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm assuming Dak's staying in Dallas. So what can Mike McCarthy do with a young and up-and-coming quarterback in Dak Prescott? He's also a guy that I think he's been humbled, right?
Yeah,
of course. You think Mike McCarthy, who didn't get a couple of jobs last year after he was fired by Green Bay, I think he's been humbled by that.
I think anyone would be in their right mind.
So then he's humbled, but he also is like, I don't care about the press conferences. Let Jerry go out and be the face. I'll just stand by and coach the team and, I don't know, win games.
Yeah, I mean, Nicole, when you really look at it, there's always two sides to the story because the Dallas Cowboys and that brand is so large and big. There's the exciting, sexy aspect of that, which more often than not, the owner takes a huge part. He takes huge pride in that being who you are as the Cowboys. So the Lincoln Rileys, right? You look at the college coach, that kind of aspect.
Like Urban Meyer,
right? The sexy name coming in. Immediately you go to Twitter, go to social media, and even some of our media here at ESPN, you're like, that are huge Cowboys fans look at it and go, ugh. But the truth of the matter is that when you look at Mike McCarthy's time with the Packers in comparison to other teams in the NFC, by the way, 2008 to 2016, the best record in the NFC. Who's the coach? Mike McCarthy. Top 5 offense, top 10 defense in his entire tenure there.
No, yeah.
It's not bad.
It was 125, 77, and 2. I love the two ties. I mean, that's a damn good record.
Right, but we're left because the media tells us that Aaron Rodgers and he didn't get along anymore. Well, that's like any relationship. We're going to talk about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I'm not saying those two are on that same level.
Not always kittens and rainbows, right?
Absolutely.
But like, unless you're married, hell, marriages fall apart for that reason.
Right.
Like, relationships in life, they sort of have like a timeline on them. You know, everything runs its course. I don't look at Aaron Rodgers any differently than I look at Mike McCarthy. I don't look at Tom Brady any differently than I look at Bill Belichick. If there are cracks in the relationship, fine, whatever. I feel like, again, hey, kid, that's life. Like, you make it work, and sometimes when it's run its course, one of you has to go in a different direction. Well, that's what happened in Green Bay.
Yep.
But
put yourself in a Cowboys fan's shoes. They want sexy. They want everything. I actually think this is a pragmatic move. I actually believe this is a move that surprised me. Now, people are saying, what's the difference between Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy? You and I just talked about that for the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
There's a big difference.
There's leadership there. I just hope Mike McCarthy's changed a little bit because what Aaron Rodgers and the Packers said when they let him go, analytics and the new way, you know, the new NFL, he wasn't totally part of that.
No, he wasn't.
I wonder over the last 16, 18 months if he did anything on that.
I have a feeling Stephen A. has a few thoughts on this, and we'll hear from Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show coming up in just a little bit. He's going to call in on ESPN Radio. It's Nicole Briscoe and Taylor Twellman filling in for that very loud, booming voice.
Yes.
that
we don't really
has.
need to. Just we'll get him on the line.
Do you honestly think, though, that Jerry Jones could have pulled somebody like a Lincoln Riley?
Absolutely.
Do you?
I do.
Why?
Because I think we are underestimating the power of the Cowboys brand and what that job entails. That is the richest team in pro sports in the United States of America.
It's in the top 5 across the world.
And that's exactly where I was just going to go. So that prestige for Lincoln Riley, with all due respect, I'm not hating on the Oklahoma Sooners in that program, but you're going to resurrect the Cowboys and be the first coach to lead him back to Super Bowl, where, by the way, everyone, you and I were very young when the Cowboys were in the Super Bowl last.
Well, yeah.
And yet we talk about them like they go back every 4 or 5 years.
The other day, like if you are in your like young 30s, right? And I'm a little older than that, so I do have memories of them being good, in part because of, I mean, they sort of beat up on my team a couple times along the way, but if you are young 30s, late 20s, you would have had to have been like a kindergartner or something, or younger, to remember them actually being in the Super Bowl.
Marcus Spears, who works here at ESPN, he was 11 years old. He played for the Cowboys, was 11 years old when they were in the Super Bowl last. So my point of this whole
let
thing...
that sink in for a second.
Yes, and now you're asking me, is that intriguing to a Lincoln Riley? I feel like it is.
That's the reason why I think it's not as intriguing anymore.
Okay.
Look, I think this goes with things being cyclical in life, right? There was once a point of time in the NBA where the Knicks...
Yeah.
Like Madison Square Garden, the Knicks, that was the Mecca. That's where you wanted to be. Now, they can't get anyone. And a lot of that is ownership, and a lot of that is the way that things have gone. But just because you were once bright and shiny and you were the new shiny object doesn't mean you're always going to be that way. Like sometimes the shine comes off, and sometimes the ownership and the antics of the ownership wear thin, and you don't want to fall in line anymore. And I just don't know. I'm not saying that Lincoln Riley is going to get pulled from Oklahoma to go to like the Cleveland job, but I'm not saying it was as a slam dunk as maybe it once was.
And I don't think you're wrong on that. And I kind of agree with you to this extent is we do talk. I mean, put it this way. When Cowboys insiders and NFL fans, NFL analysts and whatever on our network say, well, you got to, get the Cowboys back. What does that mean? Make the playoffs? Because this year they didn't make the playoffs. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I know
good enough. Just make the playoffs isn't good enough. So obviously
technically it's better what they did this year.
Yeah, but in my opinion, for the talent on that team, that's not good enough.
But you're arguing my brand thing, and that's what I'm talking about. Any other team, we're talking about
talent. I'm arguing talent. I'm looking at that roster the way that they had it constructed this season and the number of Pro Bowlers they had in that team. More Pro Bowlers on that team than any other team in the NFL by kind of a long shot.
So Mike McCarthy's only successful if he goes to the Super Bowl. I know where you're going with this.
No, he doesn't have to go to the Super Bowl, but he has to be close.
Okay.
I'll give him a couple of seasons too. He doesn't necessarily have to do it next year, but he has to do it within the first 3.
And I'm curious on what other people, as they dive into this, how much is this hire to groom Jason Witten and help him along, and then he fills in? Because I'll tell you one thing. Everyone and their mother's telling me that Jason Witten is going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. And when I look at that deal, is that why Mike McCarthy's kind of one of those things? Witten's going to come in, does Kellen Moore stay? We don't know. We're analyzing this, right?
Yeah.
How is Mike McCarthy going to change that entire team? But they had the number 1 offense in the NFL last year. I just want, statistically, they had the number 1 offense in the NFL.
Well, right.
And yet we're talking about Mike McCarthy coming in. Why you don't really want to change that part?
Well, no, but I was going to say this year, like the point
which is why the hire's
was not a problem. The point they had no problem scoring most of the time. Like the point differential was there. They have Zeke Elliott missed a bit of time and still was the 4th leading rusher in the NFL this season.
You know what I'm getting at, though?
What are you getting at?
Mike McCarthy's hire, that tells me they've already had, they did have a sleepover Saturday night, so they've already gone through.
So creeped out by that,
I'm kind of curious, like, what was on the.
What
did they do? Like, did they play Madden? And, like, if Jerry Jones, whoever was 2 out of 3, they got to make the decision? Like I'm just not totally sure.
Was Marvin Lewis there as well?
Well, I'm just wondering.
Like, maybe it was just like a big sleepover. Maybe that's how they decided.
Maybe Marvin Lewis is the defensive coordinator. We have no idea, but he was there for the sleepover.
Right. So maybe it was Marvin Lewis and it was Jerry Jones and it was Mike McCarthy. And I would imagine in my little messed up mind here, it was also Stephen Jones there. So Stephen Jones was making the popcorn and getting ready for like the 2 Madden controllers.
I kind of want that story. Out of all the stories, I want that story.
And then in the back of my mind, like Jerry Jones is like sitting there in some like Hugh Hefner-esque robe, like in the back lounge chair, just like
with the big star on the back of it.
Well, naturally.
Yep.
And then he's just like, ready, guys, winner of this game gets to be the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Ready, set, go.
You just painted an unbelievable picture.
I think I might be onto something.
But I also think Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy might be onto something because that sleepover and describing what you're going to do with the staff.
Yes.
This was already, I think the wheels are already in motion and they got it.
Because I think it also kind of leaked out too. Taylor Twellman and Nicole Briscoe with you on the Stephen A. Smith show.
Cardinals fan and whatever she
Green
is.
Bay Packer. My baseball allegiances are complicated, but whatever.
Cubs.
I think the wheels were in motion. Like, obviously, it took them a while to admit to the fact that, we are actually moving on from Jason Garrett. But I think the wheels were in motion. They already had an idea of what they wanted. That's why this has come so relatively quickly.
Well, all it takes is a sleepover.
A sleepover. I was just going to ask you a question, and all your sleepover thing made me lose my mind just slightly.
It kind of fits the Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Who do you think had the bigger role in this decision? Because, look, Jerry's what? Jerry's 77? I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I'm pretty sure Jerry Jones is 77, right? And Stephen Jones is sort of like the future. Who do you think had more to say?
Isn't that funny when you say that that number for Jerry Jones? He still seems quicker, and younger than that number with how he responds in certain moments. He does in certain things. I find Jerry Jones to be very intriguing on that aspect. I think Stephen Jones is extremely powerful. I think anyone's naive to think otherwise. But
I'm not arguing that. No,
but
no,
I do
I'm
think
not.
I do think Jason Witten and that dynamic. What is this kind of why Mike McCarthy's brought in? Bring some leadership. He does have at least a Super Bowl to his name and developing Aaron Rodgers. So the credibility, he's going to have the locker room. But what he does with the defense, Nicole, all I'm talking about is Mike McCarthy is known for his relationship and what he did with Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so you're going to make Dak better? They're already the number one offense. That defense couldn't stop anybody.
No, but I also need to remind you,
what's his
have
staff?
to still bring Dak back, whether it's you give him a contract or you franchise tag him. Like, he's not under
I'm
contract.
saying Dak stays there, but is he developing Dak? Of course, he's going to help improve him, but he developed Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCarthy was there. He was a huge part of that. You follow where I'm going?
Yeah.
I love the conversations all about their offense. It's the number one offense in the NFL.
But if that's the conversation and that's where we're going, I do have some concerns. As a Packers fan, I can think off the top of my head, only a handful of times where I was like, damn, that's a good defense, right? Which is concerning. Yep. Or do you take the Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma approach where like my offense is so good, it doesn't matter if my defense can't stop anything because my offense is just going to outscore you. So are we okay with that now? Like, if you're a Dallas fan, are you okay with that?
Yeah, and I think that's why there's concern. I really believe that. Now, has the leopard changed his stripes a little bit, and has he learned anything from being away from the NFL? That's what's going to truly tell us whether Mike McCarthy's up to work with Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys.
So it was a big weekend in the NFL, and that is sort of continuing on this Monday as we continue the conversation on the Stephen A. Smith show. It is Taylor Twellman and Nicole Briscoe. So Tua is declaring for the draft.
Yep.
We'll get into that a little bit later. Mike McCarthy is the new coach. Not officially named, but he is the new coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It was a very wild card weekend, was appropriately named.
Yeah, it was.
Right? So wild card week, the Saints and the Vikings got involved in a game that has a controversial ending. Stop me if you've heard of that before. Is Kirk Cousins okay now? Has he changed the narrative?
Oh, here we go.
I can't wait to talk to you about Carson